Coming up on Oakdale Update, we'll chat with Washington County Attorney Pete Orput. We'll see highlights from the Oakdale Area Business Showcase, and we'll tell you about some upcoming events in the city. Stay tuned, Oakdale Update is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to Oakdale Update. I'm your host, Frank Orsello. This is the City of Oakdale's news and information program about your community. Pete Orput was first elected as the Washington County Attorney in 2011 and was re-elected in 2015. He's been on this show before and we're excited to have him back again. Pete, thanks for joining us on Oakdale Update.
Well, thanks for having me, Frank.
Okay.
I really
You want to give us a quick update about your background a little bit?
Well, I've been a career prosecutor for now going a little over 30 years. I was with Washington County for 7 years, started specializing in gang prosecutions, and it led me ultimately to the Attorney General's office and then running a robbery task force in Hennepin. And I got the idea of running for county attorney, and I've had great fun ever since I was elected.
You're dealing with a lot of good people out there, aren't you?
We have a wonderful, wonderful staff of committed people, but we've got some real challenges, and I'm really excited to be doing what I'm doing right now.
You deal well with Sheriff Hutton, Bill Hutton?
We work very, very closely together.
Yeah, he's a former Oakdale policeman, and
he is.
He's done well, hasn't he?
He's done well. All the law enforcement in our county, I think, are doing exceptionally well, especially compared to other areas of the country that you read about.
Sure. Okay, now I had a lot of information given to me by your office as to the background here as to what we could talk about today. And of course, I never got any further than the sex trafficking, which I know you're very passionate about. This is one of your big things, isn't it?
Well, Frank, if you prioritize what we do as prosecutors, we're to hold bad guys account and to do everything we can to ensure the safety of the public. And when you look at what's going on, I think priority one for me is protecting our kids at all costs. And we've learned that some of our kids have gotten involved in the worst kind of criminal activity you could imagine, and that's being trafficked as essentially sex slaves, prostitutes. I can't find the right word to describe how horrible it is.
Okay, how big a problem is this in let's say, the state of Minnesota and Washington County in particular?
Well, frankly, 2 years ago, if you'd have talked to me about prostitution and sex trafficking, I'd have said, well, it's a problem, but mostly in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Since then, it's a problem everywhere in the state, including our beautiful county out here. It's a real problem. And I'm working like crazy to try to address it.
So, okay, I guess I keep thinking about, you said Minneapolis and all that. Those are prostitutes on the street. John's going in, they stop and they pick them up, bring them in the car.
Yeah.
But it's changed a lot, and why has it changed so much? What is why are things changed so much, rather than just that picking a woman up off the street like it used to be?
Well, and that's what I thought it was, Frank. That still exists, the gal on University Avenue or Lake Street. But now, with technology, almost all of it that I see is done with a cell phone. It's gotten so bad, Frank, that I can take out my cell phone, I can order up a juvenile to come to my house to have sex with me, then I can order a pizza, and I'll bet the girl beats the pizza to the door.
Jeez Louise.
It's gotten that bad.
Wow. So this online business, that's another big thing, isn't it, online?
Yeah. It's almost all of it that we see now is done through places like Backpage.com. I hate to even talk about it because I hope some sick person doesn't go on there. But it's a ad space for that predators can order kids off of. And there's a number of other apps that get kids in trouble as well.
Okay. I'm just an old country boy here, so I'm
too.
dumber than a pail of rocks when it comes to this sort of thing. So, what does a person do? They get on the internet and go to this back page as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then who are they talking to? A girl or a pimp?
Well, here's how it works. Typically, if I can make a generalization, a pimp will have a young girl that he wants to prostitute out. So he'll post an ad on Backpage and put a photo of her and talk about what she's willing to do and for how much money. Then people apparently go to Backpage, look and see what they want to buy, and then click on it or call the phone number, and they can do business that way.
So does the guy plan on meeting this girl someplace? Sets it up and plans to meet someplace?
They'll either meet at a hotel, meet at a car, meet at a house. We've seen it all. Meet in a lot of motels, and a lot of times car sex or at their home.
Okay, it used to be, so police, like in downtown Minneapolis, they'd have decoys out there. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to catch people in this kind of a situation?
Well, we do the same thing, Frank. We post our own ads, and we've got a robust group of police officers that we've asked to volunteer from each of our 11 departments, and we coordinate these stings where we'll put up ads posing as a young girl, and you would be shocked at the number of people responding to these ads. And oftentimes we'll set them up for motels, and we've prosecuted, I think, 60 of these guys that were driving to a motel to have sex, specifically with a kid. Mm. And so those.
Do they know they're having with a kid?
Well, when they're going back and forth on the texting, we make real sure that that this is a child. Oh. And frequently, that's what they want. And so we try to bust those Johns, trying to keep the demand down. Mm-hmm. But on the supply side, we've already found 9 girls and gotten them out of there, and 1 boy, and gotten them out of that and got them in with the sex trafficking, human trafficking navigator to get them services.
What are these Johns like? What kind of people are they?
A slice of life, Frank, and embarrassingly for us men, they're like you and me. You get lawyers, doctors, school teachers, ministers, working stiffs. It shocks me the number of people that get busted.
Okay, so once they do they what's their recidivism? I mean, do they come back and do it again, or do you catch them?
By the time we shame them in court, it's a low-level felony for engaging in sex trafficking, but it means jail. It means sometimes registering as a sex offender, and it means it's going to be a tough one to explain to your wife and family if you get caught doing that on the buyer's side.
So hopefully these professionals, a lot of them could be professionals, usually is at the end of their career probably, or at
I would imagine it would be. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing stuff.
How could you face your kids and your wife?
Well, I get embarrassed just charging these cases out, Frank, and I think, what's happened to us as men? What's happened to us where there's such a large pool of people who want to have sex with a kid? It really disappoints me greatly, but we're fighting back.
Oh, good for you. All right, now let's go. There was a case last month in Woodbury about a man who wanted to pick up a girl, and a young person too, is my understanding. Can you walk us through that one? When the police busted him, he had a car with a tarp in the trunk, and we'll explain that one. That was
this is how it works, Frank. I've got a paralegal who goes through Backpage every day looking at every one of those prostitution ads, looking to see if there's a telltale sign of a kid. Well, she sees an ad. The picture on there makes the girl look pretty young. She does some open source searching on that phone number, and it takes her to a high school girl's Facebook page, and there it is in a photo. She's wearing our local high school t-shirt. So we put together a response team, go down to the school, pull her out of class, and the first thing she says is, she cries and says, "I didn't think anybody cared."
Wow.
And then we said, well, we do, and we sat down with her and went over it, and what it turned out was a boyfriend had her put an ad on Backpage, and she started having sex. Well, one guy whom she had sex with, this guy named Corwin Moose, he saw an article in the paper about how we rescued this girl, if you will, and he called her and was furious, yelling at her, saying, "You tricked me, I didn't know you were under 18. Couple days later, he calls her back. Now we have the phone, her phone, and starts saying he wants to have sex again with her. So we, playing the kid, arranged for him to meet. He was going to pick her up and take her back to his house. Well, when he came to show up at her house, we arrested him. He had no money to pay for the sex, and when we opened the trunk, it was lined with plastic. And he had a very large duffel bag and a box of latex gloves. We think, we couldn't prove it, but we think he may have wanted to kidnap her and perhaps kill her. Well, we sent him to prison, and I wish that were the end of it, but we've got so many more cases going right now.
Jeez.
It's kind of scary stuff.
That's pretty serious. I mean, going from prostitution to murder. I mean, it's potential murder, huh?
Unfortunately, I've had my share of those kinds of cases. I had a case where some gangsters from St. Paul were taking juvenile girls and bringing them to truck stops along Interstate 90. And when one of the girls had sex with a guy that had a lot of money, she told them, and they went and murdered two people.
Oof.
So it's dangerous stuff. It really is.
Oh my God, that's spooky. All right, so continue here. Okay, what is, you have a unit there called Major Crimes Prosecutors. Now, there's two people involved in that, and you want to tell us about that, and what do they do, and who are they?
Well, it started like this, Frank. About a year and a half or 2 years ago, we realized there were crimes being committed in the county that if you could take the time to thoroughly investigate them and thoroughly prosecute them, you could make a dent in it. But like everything else, we're all too busy to put that kind of time in.
Sure.
Well, I went to my county board and said, if you'll give me an opportunity to try a program just for 1 year, let me hire an attorney and then pull one of my seasoned ones out of the lineup, the day-to-day lineup, and have them work with the cops. From the ground up on an investigation, we can go after the long-term organized crime. We thought we were going to do the organized retail theft rings that are preying on our business people in this county. That's where we started, and immediately we ran into a case where we found a girl, a high school girl, being sex trafficked. And we didn't know anything about it. Well, once we started digging and learning, we changed our whole emphasis from organized retail theft to juvenile prostitution, and I can't keep up with it.
Really?
I'm so busy. In fact, we put in a grant, and I hope to be able to get it to allow me to bring in a couple more people, because we're doing a land office business, Frank.
Jeez. You would say from the commission, is this the county commissioners? Is that where you had to get your money for?
Well, yeah, and they're very supportive of our program when they realize the extent of it, which I didn't know 2 years ago, and now I'm alarmed because it's pervasive, it's everywhere, and we're doing something about it here.
Wow. So who are the two people that are kind of leading that charge?
Well, my senior attorney is Imran Ali, very seasoned, very passionate prosecutor, and then I have Amy Schroeder, who's a paralegal. Amy does all the heavy lifting of going through ads all day long, and I worry for her because it's some sick stuff.
Really?
But she's so dogged. We've now found 9 kids that we've gotten out of the prostitution thing, and about 35 adult women. So we're making a dent, and we've prosecuted well over 50 Johns and 7, 8 pimps. I've got several going right now. It's just awful.
I told you, I'm just a boy from the sticks. I'm telling you, I'm shocked.
And that's what the internet has done, Frank. It's brought in seedy crime throughout everywhere in the state. And, you know, the challenge is we don't want to believe we have that in Washington County, but we do, and we're doing something about it. We're going to protect our kids no matter what.
Good for you. Okay, tell us about the special dispatch teams. How does that work, and what is it? What is it all about, and how does it work?
Well, we learned the hard way with that girl that I was telling you about from the South County, the high school girl. We didn't know how to respond, but we knew we had to, so we cobbled together a social worker and a cop and a prosecutor to go down there. Well, after that incident, we decided we needed a code red system where each department is going to provide a cop to get thoroughly trained in how to respond.
No, you mean each department? You mean like the sheriff's office?
Yeah, 11 police departments, starting with the sheriff, Woodbury, Oakdale, Cottage Grove. Oakdale's got a wonderful detective assigned to us. Actually, he's putting about 25 hours a week in on this. But if we have a rapid response team, we call it Code Red, we send out an alert. We need help right now. We found somebody that's being trafficked, or we found some evidence and we need as many hands on deck as we can. And our crew responds en masse. And so we're ready with social workers.
So is this kind of almost like a SWAT team?
Kind of, but it's a little different. It's both. We have to do law enforcement, but we have to do social work. Because we uncovered a victim, a kid. What do we do with the kid? We've got a Tubman navigator there from the Tubman Center. And she can look for a placement for the kid, because you got to do something right away.
Sure.
And then I've got cops that follow up on the criminal leads. And we have to coordinate that whole thing together, and it's been great. We also set up a tip line. Someone can call the county anonymously. And that's resulted in a couple of cases where somebody told us there's a boy being sex trafficked, and we caught the perpetrator of it. So this is good stuff, and it's just a beginning though, Frank. But those are two good things I'm very proud of, the Code Red and the tip line.
Okay, financially, who pays for all this? I mean, you got extra cops on duty, or are they on duty anyway? So then they just direct their to the special unit there.
That's a great question, because we're all stressed out financially. Every department is really working as hard as they can. My office is. So to go with the extra mile, you might need the extra resource. But to start with, each department committed to providing a cop when we need them. Some departments have gone much further. Oakdale, for one, Chief Sullivan has got Ryan Stewart probably half the week just working on this with us.
And he's okay with that, huh?
He's not only okay, he's 100% behind it. And because Bill Sullivan and I both realize these are our kids. This is our community. And so he went all in, and so did the Woodbury chief. And so we're kind of building a task force here, slowly but surely. And the more we build, the more we get.
It's good. Now, just as a fiscal thing, but does that cop is already on duty? This is the one, Ryan. He's already on duty, so he's being paid anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to come up with extra funds to have him involved in your unit there.
No, we don't. Except it's kind of zero sum, Frank. I'm pulling him off doing other investigations.
Yes.
But when you look at the priority, you go, okay, there's a lot of investigations that need to be done. Thefts, burglaries, and then there's kids being trafficked.
Sure.
Well, I think that we'd all agree that the kids come number one.
Absolutely.
But we've sought 2 grants now, and I'm really hoping I hear this week that I get a second grant, which will allow me to bring in another prosecutor, a cop, and another legal assistant to do that hard work of culling through those ads.
Okay, now you talked about these kids. What's their backgrounds usually?
Well, if I make generalizations, and I kind of have to talk, because each kid's uniquely different, but what we've seen, Frank, is lonely kids who don't feel like they belong. Maybe home is not safe. Maybe mom or dad have chemical dependency issues. And these kids don't feel like they belong anywhere. And oftentimes they become real good targets for a very suave and smooth pimp to swoop down on them and look like, at least to begin with, the most charming, open, sensitive guy that's there to help them. And they get tricked really quick. And once they trick them, it's not too long before they turn them, and then the kid's in real trouble.
And these guys are good at what they do, I suppose.
They're unbelievable. If they wanted to, they could be making millions in sales.
I've often wondered about that. Why don't you do something constructive? Good at
They could, because they're so persuasive. They can talk a young girl or boy into doing something that none of us would ever conceive possible.
Honest to God.
But they do it in steps, and they're very effective. And when we catch them, we really do try to put the boots to them.
Did they make good money out doing all of this?
We have criminal gangs that I've spent a good deal of time chasing that always made their money on drug dealing, and some of them now find it far more lucrative to traffic kids.
Wow.
Because it's a product that never goes away. You can reuse it over and over again, unlike drugs. And now I'm seeing that being done by organized gangs, and that's got me frightened.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Well, it's got me fired up, too, because...
I'm just a country boy. I'm
Well,
telling you,
you know,
you're
there's-
really giving me a workout
Well,
here.
come help me, Frank.
I want you to, there's two cases that came to light here just recently, and I'd like you to just very briefly, because we're running out of time here. The first one is Brian Lee Kirsten. That's a heck of a story right there. You want to give us the background and then tell us about that.
This is a great slice, Frank. Thanks for bringing that up. Brian Kirsten's a veterinarian in Baldwin, Wisconsin. And, you know, that's a pretty good job, pretty good career.
Sure.
He got involved in having sex with immigrant Chinese girls or women. And he got so involved in it that he became part of a conspiracy run by a woman in China to fly Chinese girls from China to Minnesota. Kirsten would pick them up at the airport, go get them a burner cell phone, you know, a prepaid cell phone, and drop them off at motels, get them registered, then come around every day and collect the money. So
Did he leave the girls at the motel?
He'd leave them at the motel. None of them speak English. It's all Chinese. And they would be getting their customers from the woman in China who would be placing the ads. But Kirsten would be the one doing all the logistics, collecting the money, bringing the girls to different motels, moving them around. Well, that cost him. He's facing a prison sentence and for doing the sex trafficking.
Okay, why would a man, he had a good career going, and is it the money again, do you think? Why would he do something like that?
You know, it's funny, Frank, long ago I told myself, quit asking why people do what they do to each other.
I suppose.
But you can't help it. You go, why would this guy throw away his entire life and career on this? I'm not sure. I don't know what the allure to being part of a racketeering conspiracy to sell girls. I don't know why that would
honest to God,
hold attractions.
A lot of ways to make money these days. Why would you do something as rotten as that?
I don't know.
Okay, and the other guy was DiMartino. Tell us a little bit about him.
Damian DiMartino is a notorious pimp, and he had been convicted of 2 prior criminal sexual conduct incidents, or rape, if you will, one at least involving a minor, and we kind of stumbled across him. We stumbled across him because the police stopped a car with a 17-year-old girl in it, and next thing you know, she's telling the police that she's being trafficked and tells us who her pimp is, and it's DiMartino. And she told us a story that we found shocking, that DiMartino would put girls like her onto party buses for stag parties or going to the football game. And she'd be expected to perform for these people on these buses. It was just awful. And he was a dangerous offender because he's been doing this over and over again. Highly exploitive man. And we got a 20-year prison sentence out of it.
Okay, now I want to ask you about that. What about the veterinarian? He hasn't been sentenced yet?
Not yet.
What do you reckon he's going to get?
53 months in prison.
53 months?
Yeah. It was about 4-some years.
Well, that's not a lot.
No, it isn't. But we got him to prison.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, you got to work hard to get to prison.
What about, and it's 20 years now, that is a lot.
Well, see, because he had 2 prior offenses. A veterinarian had nothing. And he wasn't just involved in the logistics. He was involved in actually preying upon the girls and forcing them into this. And with his prior convictions, that was 20 years. I still think 20 isn't enough for someone like him. But I'll let God figure that out.
Well, he should be pretty worn out by the time he gets out of prison in 20 years.
I'm
Would
not
he be
sure.
serving the full 20, you think? Or do we get,
you serve in Minnesota, you serve 2/3 of your prison sentence if you behave yourself. Yeah. So that's about, what, 14 years?
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah,
okay.
Not enough.
Okay. I got time for one more question, and then we're out of time. But the Minnesota has a safe harbor for sexually exploited youth law. What is that, very quickly?
Safe harbor is a great concept. It means the cops have somewhere to turn if they find this going on. If they find a juvenile being trafficked, well, what do you do with the kid? Most cops don't know. But with a safe harbor person, they have navigators, they call it, in every part of the state. Out here, our safe harbor navigator is at Tubman. It's a one-stop call. I don't know what to do. You can call them. Somebody will come out, and we coordinate, what do we do with the kids? We have to put them somewhere. Foster care, maybe reunited with their families. We have to do an intervention, and they're the people who know how to do that part of the intervention.
Good. Otherwise, the kids would just be, floating around. I mean, it'd probably go back to what they were doing, correct?
Cops and prosecutors don't make good social workers.
Yes.
But when we team up like that, Frank, I think we can make a big difference, and we really have. In 1 year, I think we've made a profound difference in the county.
Good for you. Well, Pete, I'm just excited as heck to talk to you. You fill us in with so much information here. I'm going to have you back again because we're going to get into something else, embezzlement or whatever. There's so many things available out there. So I want to thank you for joining us on Oakdale Update today.
Well, I hope everyone goes out and votes tomorrow.
Oh, God, yes.
And happy Marine Corps birthday, Frank.
You too.
Thank you.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Thank you, sir. Much obliged.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
The second annual Oakdale Area Business Showcase was recently held at the Envision. This event was put on by Oakdale Area Chamber of Commerce in the city of Oakdale. Here are some highlights from the Oakdale Area Business Showcase.
The Oakdale Showcase consists of over 70 vendors. They all can come from Oakdale, Lake Elmo, Woodbury, Maplewood, North St. Paul, and we're just trying to open it up to the community to let them know what different businesses there are around and also have a great safe time trick-or-treating at the same time.
There's trick-or-treating at every booth, so we invite families to dress up in costume and come trick-or-treating. The vendors themselves dress up, and there is, like I said, trick-or-treating at every single booth. We have a face painter, we have a balloon artist, we have food. It's just a really fun family event.
We love the showcase. This is the second year of the showcase, and it allows us as an organization of the Chamber of Commerce to get our businesses great exposure, our area businesses great exposure to the population. Last year we had 1,800 folk that came through. This year we're hoping for even more.
We're just about out of time, but here's a look at some upcoming events. The indoor market opens November 26th at the Discovery Center at 4444 Hadley Avenue. The hours are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You'll find over 20 vendors offering a unique variety of gourmet foods, essential oils, jewelry, and more. Again, the first indoor market is on November 26th, and the next one after that is on December 10th. On December 8th, Santa will travel through Oakdale on a fire truck covered in Christmas lights. The excitement starts at 6 p.m. at the North Fire Station, traveling south on Hadley Avenue and making several stops, ending at City Hall at 7:20 p.m. And the annual Winter Wonderland event takes place on December 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Discovery Center. Free family fun includes hay rides, a petting zoo, face painting, Santa, and refreshments. That's all we have time for in this month's Oakdale Update. For everyone at the City of Oakdale, thanks for watching.